To God be the glory.
Welcome back to Singing with the Spirit. For these next few minutes, I want us to look at the song leader's job. And for song leaders, it's time for us to roll up our sleeves. It's time for us to consider what exactly is our job as a song leader. If you're watching this and you're not a song leader, you might say, well, this doesn't apply to me. Actually, it does, because we're going to be talking about what the man who stands up, that selects the songs, that directs the congregation, what is he doing? And how is he presenting himself? One, so that he can bring the congregation closer to God, but more importantly, how he can honor God through the things that he does and the way that he leads the worship. As we begin, I want to introduce you to a gentleman. His name is Henry Sloane Coffin. He lived in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and he was president of the Union Theological Seminary. You may not know much about him or his work. He did translate O Come, Emmanuel. That was one of his works. But he was also the author of a book entitled The Public Worship of God. I want you to consider what he said in this statement. Men and women with a true feeling of worship of God will do everything possible to avoid whatever has the least trace of exhibitionism in their leadership on the sacrifice of praise. A couple of things. He said men and women. Now, we know that the ladies aren't leading the singing, but ladies, you are also leaders. Within the women's classes, within the women's worships, the times that you are together, you are leading. How are you leading? But for the men, especially the men who are song leaders, listen to his admonition here. Coffin says we must do everything possible to avoid whatever is the least trace of exhibitionism in our leadership on the sacrifice of praise. What does he mean when he says exhibitionism and that we should avoid that? By definition, it simply is the act or practice of behaving so as to attract attention to oneself. You don't do things that make people look at you. Now, when you consider what you're doing as a song leader, you are leading. People should look at you. You should be directing them. But you do not want to attract the attention towards yourself. In short, what Coffin is saying to us is it's not about you. It's not about you, song leaders. Now, for musicians, that can oftentimes be a hard pill to swallow because I am on stage. I am performing. People do need to follow me. And this is true. They do need to follow. But it can't be about you. You have to ask the question. Song leaders, I would ask this of you, and I would ask it of the congregation as well. Do you know why you sing? Do you understand what you are singing? See, this is all part of the work that we do as we're leading the people of God in praise. But also as a congregation, this is what we are called to do. We read over and again that we are to sing psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs. What does that mean, and how do we do that? Do we understand what it is that we're doing? We're living a very difficult time because in this day and age, our singing is on stage. Consider The Voice. Consider America's Got Talent. Consider any of these shows, The Masked Singer. And it's all about talent. It's all about how good the voice sounds. But when it comes to God's worship, it's not about our voices. It's about our hearts. Song leaders, you need to understand this. And congregation, you need to understand this. Song leading is not a contest. It's not to see who's the best and who's the worst. Now, I know that many of our congregations, we have multiple leaders, and that's great. That's good. We should be able to have people use their talents. And some are going to be more talented than others. That's a given. But if we have an idea that we look at one and grade him above another, I think we may be missing the point when it comes to our worshiping of God. So as we roll up our sleeves, as we look towards this job of the song leader, all I want us to do for this short lesson is to look at the song leader's appearance. How is he dressed? Should he dress up? Or should he dress down? Maybe he should just be able to wear a polo shirt. That should be sufficient. Or maybe he should wear a suit and a tie. What's appropriate? And quite honestly, does it matter whether or not I'm dressed up or dressed down? I propose to you that it does matter. I want to give you a quick example. It was about 20 years ago in the early 2020s, and I was the song leader at Waterview Church of Christ. It was my position, that was my work, and I had just come out of education and was working full-time in the ministry. And I knew the job of the song leader was to lead, but also to dress in a way that was appropriate. And for Waterview, what was appropriate was a suit and a tie. And so I did. I wore my suit and a tie. But I was just coming out of education, and as an educator, I had lots of ties. However, they were more comical, if you will. One of my ties was very colorful. It was a black background. It had candy M&Ms on it, Skittles. It had all the colorful attractions of candy. And I wore that, and I had that on as I was leading singing on Sunday morning. And I thought I was doing just fine. Well, as soon as church was over, and as soon as I got back in the foyer, one of our older ladies came up to me. She shook my hand and said, "Thank you for the song service." And then she looked close at my tie. And as she looked in on it, she said this, and I'll never forget this. She said, "Oh, that's what's on your tie. I was trying to figure that out the entire service." Do you see what I just did? By wearing something that was inappropriate, it caused her to be distracted. Now, can I change that? Can I cause her not to think that way? No, that's going to be her choice. But I could have worn something that wasn't grabbing her attention, that was not distracting her away from the course of worship. And I could have done something tie-wise that was maybe a little less distractive. But whether it's a suit and tie or whether it's a polo shirt, it's whatever is acceptable for the area. If I were to go into Hawaii and wear a suit and tie, I would probably be out of place in worship, because in that setting, it's a little bit more relaxed. At the same time, if I go into Wyoming or Montana or the Dakotas and I go in dressed up with a three-piece suit, again, I'm going to be out of place. However, if I come down to a town, perhaps in Texas, that is more of an inner city, that's a little bit more of a white-collar congregation, if you will, and I dressed more like I was wearing my flannels, or perhaps even like this, that may be a little bit more of a distraction. Does it matter what we wear? I propose to you that it doesn't. However, it does this. We will either draw attention to ourselves, or we'll turn the attention to our God. You see, the congregation is going to be focused. The congregation is either going to be focused on us or they're going to be distracted by us. And you, song leaders, quite honestly, can be focused either as you're leading your songs in the book or on the congregation. Let me encourage you to keep your eyes on the church as you're singing. If we get ourselves buried in the songbook, the congregation is going to assume that we as a song leader are not interested in them. And it looks distracting, and it actually looks like it's taking away. Remember, the church is focused in on you. They're following your lead. You are the one who is leading the congregation. So what will you do with that? How will you lead them? They will look at you, and you want to reflect what you want them to see. So if that's the case, not just is my physical appearance important, but also perhaps my facial expressions. Now, I may be getting a little tough for some folks here, but I'm afraid too many times, song leaders, as we're leading, we have a look that says we're not very happy about being here. It may even look like I've been weaned on a dill pickle, an expression with a furrowed brow, maybe a frown on my face. And people don't want to sing with that. Oh, they will, because they know that's their responsibility to sing praises, but it does not bring them towards the throne of God. It distracts them. At the same time, I can't put on a fake expression. I can't smile and act like I'm happy with it if I don't truly believe it. It's important for us to realize that our appearance, yes, it does include our face. It does include our clothes. But what it really needs to be done is to focus on our God. And we do that through our songs. We do that through the selection of the songs. We do that through the way that we dress. We do that through the way that we look. It's our job to focus the congregation. Song leaders, it is your job to make sure the congregation is focused. And they will be focused. You need to understand that you are, song leader, in a glass bowl. And the congregation is watching you. And they're either going to focus in on you, or they're going to focus in on their God. Have you ever been to a baseball game and you've sat and watched the game and the umpire made mistake after mistake after mistake, and there were things you thought, oh, why did he do that? That was a terrible call. You know what I'm talking about. The focus of the game has now left the game and the players and the importance of what we're doing, and now we're focusing on the umpire, the man who's supposed to keep this game rolling. Song leaders, you have that same charge. You don't want to do things that is going to cause the congregation to look at you as opposed to looking at their God. It's not easy. It's not easy because you do have to get the right pitch. You do have to direct the song in the right way. You do have to make sure that you're doing things that bring the congregation close to God without looking at you. But when you can get to the point that you're leading and you're getting out of the way so that people can focus in on God, then you've accomplished what a song leader's job is, at least the first step of it. So remember, song leaders, remember the words of Matthew. Or remember what Matthew recorded, the words of Christ. You are the light of the world. A city that's set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor does anyone light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Don't we teach our kids that song? This little light of mine. That's your responsibility, song leaders. To take your light and to shine it so that the world can focus, so that the congregation can focus and see the glory of praising God. Song leaders, that's your first responsibility. Roll up your sleeves, get ready, but consider how you're dressed and consider what you're doing that will bring the congregation closer to glorifying God. Thank you so much for joining this class.